Hello, Kayakus here. Believe it or not, but I'm back with another yearly devlog for Mendacium. Yearly devlog is a thing now, it seems. What was I doing all of this time? Well, I tried to finish the demo, like last time, but now I can proudly say that this time I actually did it.
Well done!
The demo will be released on the upcoming Steam Next Fest in February, so I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback. And the Steam page exists now, so you can go and wishlist the game if you are interested. As weird as it sounds, I still consider this game to be in the prototype phase, since I am trying to get all of the themes and gameplay bits just right. But now, finally, I feel like I'm getting somewhere. Let's rewind 1 year. I wanted to finish the demo finally and release it to see how people will react. However, I realized that the game has a huge focus and identity crisis, which has to be dealt with in a demo for sure. I just sat down one day and asked myself, how would I actually describe the game theme and the world in one sentence? And if I'm being honest, I could not come up with an accurate description. On one side we have the lizards, yet only lizardy things are the characters that have to be updated anyways, since they are placeholders and they look like plushy material. Then we have these flying random things that I don't even know how to describe, and random stone elementals. And the player has a sci-fi tesseract cube that harvests elemental magic. Like, what is happening?
Mendacium, a Metroidvania with occasional lizards, flying blobs, and magic?
Thematic problems were clearly visible when I had a call with my friend that composes music for the game, and I tried to explain what I envisioned for music and what I had in mind for the overall vibe and story, and he just casually said, yeah sure, we can do it, but it all looks like a chill happy cartoon with cute lizards. After days of thinking and reconsidering, I came up with this.
A prehistoric world of tribal reptiles.
With overarching theme being
Evolution.
if I really want to create a coherent world with the reptile thematic, then there is no holding back. I have to go 100% with it when it comes to visuals.
This was the beginning of the rework saga, or so-called reptilification.
You see this save point stone over here? Make it a reptile. Make an altar to be a stone reptile. This weird enemy? Boom! Make 2 reptiles instead. This flying blob? A flying reptile. This passive one? Baby reptile. Stone elemental? Nope. More like stone reptile.
Put a tick in it, maker.
Reptile. Stone whatever this is? Boom. Reptile. The door behind him? I see a reptile. Remember hookshot? Nah. Chameleon tongue. Currency being gold or whatever it was? Nah. Now they're collecting scales. An inspiring wall painting? Nah. Small reptile slaying a big serpent. Exploring the tribal thematic a bit, we also have some newly added enemies like these Bone Tribe Raiders. A bit more evolved than the mindless reptiles running around, yet savage and primitive enough to be comparable to cavemen. There is this sneaky guy that lays down traps, and a spearman enemy, a resilient fighter that doesn't go down that easily. I also made their small village, which is fittingly inside the big cave, and also a place where you can find their chieftain. Friendly characters were criminal, so the only way to rework them is to start from scratch. Now, actually considering the future workflow and how I would make the characters in a reasonable time, I ended up making a base rigged model that will be able to move how I want and even talk. Every character will share the same rig structure, so I don't have to worry about that in the future. With that, I managed to make all of the characters, and I'm really happy with the results. All of them are somewhat unique and some are different breeds, like this one being a snake and this trader being more meaty, which surely makes them seem more interesting and memorable. With the new characters, the dialogue system also got a rework. Now, instead of just having a dialogue box with a text, characters can have multiple dialogue options that you can select. This change opened up a possibility to add options other than the dialogues, like for example, shop, trade, quests, as well as the action option that will trigger a certain action. It really gives the player a nice, clean overview of what you can do with the character and allows you to dive deeper into a conversation if you really want to, while still allowing you to go straight to the quest if you don't want to read that much. Also, it allows me as a developer to make one character do many different things and still not seem confusing. Like this guy over here, you can talk to him, finish his quest, check what he has in the shop, or trade items with him. As you have already realized by now, I decided to use the outline shader for all of the characters and enemies. I'm not a big fan of the outlines in general, but in this case, I really feel like it helps with the clarity, since before everything kinda blended together and the only solution I had was to add this weird dark glow behind the characters. Now it's really clear what is a character or an enemy, and if it looks good enough, I'm fine with it, since gameplay always comes first. Now, when it comes to my rework counter, you know what will always take the first spot? It's the main character and the combat system. Here we go again. With the more tribal vibe, I thought that Energy Sword was so random that I couldn't stand it, so I went back to the drawing board. As most fellow Dr. Stone lovers would agree, combining science and sci-fi with the tribal primitive setting is a really interesting thing. So I wanted to keep that in some way. And if I'm revisiting the combat again, let's try the idea of two weapons. So I came up with this. I moved away a bit from the mage focus and went with the hunter using two weapons, spear and the bow. Hitting with the spear charges and switches to the bow, and spending the arrows switches back to the spear. To spice it up a bit more, the spear has some sort of a 4-hit combo where 4th hit deals more damage, and the bow can also be charged for more damage. The auto switching also makes it so that you actually use both weapons, since giving you a choice, most people would probably just go with one that they prefer, which isn't really my goal. But don't worry, I know that switching might seem annoying, therefore the arrow damage when close to the target is somewhat the same as the spear. So if you don't really care about it, you can just keep slapping like you normally would in any other game with a melee combat. But if you really want to go an extra mile, the arrows deal bonus damage when you hit the target from a certain range to reward the players for actually paying attention to the switching. And it's a balanced trade-off, since the arrows you can actually miss. This approach required two types of animations depending on which weapon you currently have, but I think it's worth it since I really like how the character looks now with the proper weapons. Now the main character has both primitive and advanced attributes, since the spear is the most tribal weapon ever, while the technology of the Tesseract does things that cannot be explained in this era, so on the first glance it seems more like magic or science fiction. Overall, like with all previous changes, I think I'm moving in the right direction, slowly but surely. From the start, I wanted two weapons and mostly ranged combat, and I got, well, two weapons and somewhat ranged combat, since the spear in my case can be classified as a mid-ranged weapon if you really compare it to Hollow Knight, for example. Another thing, you know what hunter thematic means? Traps! In Mendacium, you can equip two spells to cast, so now I made it that you have one spell and one trap. I don't know what is it about traps that I really like, but it's really refreshing to me that you don't just have another projectile, but you can actually lay down a trap. The character actually throws the trap, so you can in theory aim for enemies if you want, you don't have to just put it in front of you. The spells will remain the same since they are more cube focused, but here and there will be one like this new spell that I made that makes you hit multiple times really fast in front of you. And these attacks count as basic attacks, so it's really good for effects that synergize with basic attacks in some way. Moving away from the mage team to the hunter also means that the energy, mana, or whatever that was that is used to cast spells and traps doesn't make any sense anymore. So now it's adrenaline. On 50%, his eyes get a trail, and on 100%, he gets red. It's a nice thematic explanation, but gameplay-wise, you will have a visual indicator when you can cast a spell or draw a trap. This will become much cooler in the future, I hope, when I get to redo the whole model of the player character, since he is a bit outdated compared to everything else, and his rig is quite criminal, which is limiting, and I can't do that many animations that I wanted, and I would also like him to be able to open and close his mouth. And with all of that, I again got lost in reworks and forgot that there is actually a demo that has to be made. So I made some intro rooms, designed and implemented the quests, spread out the rewards around, and added the actual end of the demo. I also did some super exciting stuff like main menu with the save states and an options menu for audio and key bindings. That took some time, but now it's done and I don't have to think about it anymore. And I also spent a lot of time doing things that I personally like, but nobody probably cares about, which is the icons and these description panels that explain stuff in the game. And after struggling so much making sounds for everything, the demo is done, finally. Of course, there were a lot of bugs to fix as well. I don't think any development goes smoothly, but I think that's already expected at this point. There were huge amounts of smaller changes and additions, lore bits and improvements, but at this point I feel like it would be better to leave you to experience them in the demo itself. Don't want to spoil everything here. The demo itself should not contain the scenarios from the final game, but hey, you are free to speculate as there are some lore hints here and there. The demo will be released as a part of Steam Next Fest, so get ready because it's actually happening. I can't believe it. I completely fell in love with this project and I'm getting more and more excited about it with each update. I know the final destination and where I want the game to end up, I'm just figuring out how to actually get there. However, now for the first time, I really feel like the pieces are coming together and I'm starting to see some type of a path. I'm both excited and nervous to hear your feedback on the demo, but I kindly invite you to try it out and give me your honest thoughts so that I can continue working on this so-called path, or just scrap it and find another one if it doesn't work. I will get there eventually. I hope. Anyway, that's it. I'm done, and until next time.